welcome. Today we are going to be making some microwave omelette. This would be my second attempt at the way I'm going to do it. The first attempt did not go as well as I wanted, and we're going to try and fix some of the issues with my first attempt, and I'll explain what the issues were. I don't know if this is going to be a new series or if it's just a one-off, but anyway, I'm going to show you how to prepare this omelette. You can then see the results. It's not going to be good, but it might be adequate. That's the goal. So, we of course have our egg. This is egg with seasoning, which is why it's so discolored. It has pepper and other various seasoning in it, which has changed the color. Otherwise it would be a nice yellow. We have bell pepper, spring onion, I think that's what it's called, and it's actually luncheon meat. You can use ham if you want, but cheap ham has got these large chunks of, I don't know, rubbery fat or something. I don't like it. I'd rather just have some mush, so I use luncheon meat, and it's cheaper. So, and then we have cheese. Now, the way you apply the cheese, at least the theory in my mind, is what makes the difference when it comes to a microwave omelette, and we'll be going into detail about that in a second. But first, we're going to add the eggy seasoning mix. Now this is not going to be, because this is just a makeshift table, literally made of cardboard boxes, and a blanket on top, so it's not like level. But when I put this in the microwave, obviously it'll be level. And the second thing would be to add your whatever ingredients other than the cheese. The cheese goes last. It has to be applied in a particular manner. Splish splash. So you can just apply this basically wherever, evenly. I know it doesn't look very even. That has mostly to do with the fact that I'm a complete idiot, but also we have a lot of it, so it's kind of gonna just naturally bunch up anyway. I might spread that around a little bit more with a fork or something before I put it into the microwave. It should be mostly submerged is the thing. And right now, it's not quite there. But then we have the cheese, and I'll explain the problem with the last attempt. Essentially, it cooked much faster on the edges than it did in the middle, leaving the middle sort of uncooked and the edges dry. When I applied the cheese last time, I just spread it out evenly like everything else. But in this attempt, I'm going to put the cheese around the edges, and only the edges, to help add some mass to the edge, because there's a lip on this plate, which means the edges are going to be thinner and therefore cook faster. They also cook faster due to how the microwave works. But basically I'm trying to make the edges cook more in line with the center. I think it'll still be a little off, but I'm excited to see how well the solution works. So just place it around the edge. By the way, I know many of you prefer whispering, but it's not really the best time of day. You can hear the birds chirping. You'll probably hear people moving around in the building. So to counteract the louder noises, I'm a little bit louder via soft speaking. Also, my microphones are a little bit further away than they usually are because of this setup. So yeah, you just want to place cheese around the perimeter. Now I'm not going to give you measurements in terms of like how much of this or how much of that you want. That's kind of just up to you. In this case I have a, how big is this plate? It's a pretty big plate. I'd guess it's the flat part anyway, without the lip, is probably about 9-10 inches, so it's probably like a 12-inch plate. Relatively large, and 3 eggs is enough for that. I don't think I'd go above 3 eggs regardless. I think if you have a smaller plate you might want to go with 2 eggs. If you're using like a very small plate, like a 6-inch, you might want to go with a single egg. No, I don't think that's entirely even, but you know, basically, who cares? If it works, it'll work well enough, and if it doesn't, then it doesn't matter. I'm gonna go and cook this now, and I will return when the result is out. See you in a sec. Hi, welcome back. So here is the result. It's a bit of an interesting one. I don't know how much you can see. The plate is very hot, so I don't want to touch it too much. I'll tell you what happened, and I think this isn't as good as it could be. I think it could be better. And I'm going to try and walk through why I think another approach might be more optimal. So what happened here was actually very interesting. When you make a cheese perimeter, what happens is the cheese will cook quickest, and it expands very rapidly and quite substantially. And so the whole outer rim was just a big bubble, and it pushed all the bell pepper and the meat and everything towards the center, which is why you basically don't see any of it around the edge at all, pretty much. And I actually at one point I had to go in and thrash around a little bit, because the result of pushing everything into the center is that all the liquid from the bell pepper and all the meat and whatever gathers in the center, which again presents the same problem as before, that the center doesn't cook properly. Getting the center to cook properly is the main challenge. So how can this be helped? Well, I'm thinking the opposite approach. By putting all the cheese in the center, it blows up, pushes everything to the edge, and then you get this nice donut omelette with cheese in the middle. Maybe that's how that'll work. It might not be as effective as that, but honestly, I think that'll be 3rd time's the charm, you know. There's one thing I didn't mention earlier, and that is that the first time I tried this, I used a little bit of margarine in the base. Basically, I coated it in margarine and then put it all in. I don't know that that makes much of a difference other than making it stick a little bit less to the plate, but I don't think that's very important because I'm going to be eating it out of the plate. But the plate will look a little bit nicer and cleaner maybe. I'm not sure how it affects the overall cooking and the evenness and whatever. My understanding is that it kind of just adds to the amount of liquid in the in the whole mix, and it, as fat doesn't like cook and solidify like everything else does, so I don't think that'll help. I would recommend against it unless you absolutely need it to come out of the plate or whatever container. But if not, I wouldn't bother with that. So yeah, for my third attempt, I think I'll put all the cheese in the center of this omelette and allow it to push all the ingredients out. And then see how that works, because that could be interesting. Mastering this sort of cooking is very fun because it's not a thing that most people do. And I'm sure someone has figured it out on Google, like this is how to make it optimally. But I don't want to see that. I want to figure it out myself. And I want to like look at the results and then figure out, okay, how can we solve this issue? I find that fun. I'm a bit of a nerd, if you didn't know. I'm an idiot. But that doesn't make a goddamn difference. I'm still a fucking nerdy motherfucker. So we're gonna cut this. I mean, the edges are still quite stiff, so we still have that issue, but it's cheese stiffness instead of egg stiffness. So stiff, but not strictly speaking the same sort of dry. So we did avoid the dry side from the egg, but we sort of just replaced it with this very rubbery and hard cheese. So not perfect. Let me just see if I can cook or cut a sort of pizza slice. Are you happy that I used plastic utensils? This would have been a fucking nightmare to listen to if this was metal. Oh. Look at that. Well, it's falling apart a little bit. It's very thin. But hey, that looks sort of appetizing. It's almost like a little quiche slice. You can't really argue with the taste, although I do miss a little bit of sriracha. I was intending to put it on, and I forgot. Oh well. It's perfectly edible, and remember the seasoning is already added. There's enough salt, maybe lacking a little bit in pepper, but yeah, overall I think I like it in terms of flavor, but it is quite dry, so I think I'll try the donut approach next time. Another thing I did differently from the first attempt is instead of blasting it with heat on the hottest setting, I tried medium high, because I figured, well, it's going to cook a little bit from the very hot plate anyway, and the more I drag out the cooking process, the more of the cooking takes place from the plate, which is more even heat than the agitated particles from the microwave function. That's just a theory, but I figured I'd try it, and I can't say that the results don't show that, but it's hard for me to convey that, yes, that is indeed the case, because this just looks like one fat piece of shit. Kind of like a bitchy Asian. I don't know. It makes very little sense. It's hard to eat when you're crouched over like this and you're using subpar utensils and trying to not make noise. In case you were wondering why I'm failing at the basic task of consumption, this is fun. If you want more of these sorts of videos, and maybe if you want to see another attempt at this particular meal and see how the next, the next approach would work, the donut approach, let me know, because I actually really enjoy making this video. I mean, I'm not done making it, I guess, but this is really fun. It's something different. A lot of people have been asking for cooking videos, but it's really difficult for me to utilize the kitchen and film it at the same time. But this is like basic enough for you to understand what's going on. It's universal in terms of what kind of meal it is. You can make it anywhere. And even if you're like a college student, you've probably got a microwave, so... I mean, it is sustenance. I wouldn't call it a lazy meal. It takes like 15 minutes to prepare the ingredients. And then like 5 minutes to cook in the microwave, so it's like a 20-minute ordeal. But at the same time, it doesn't require an oven, which is nice. The ingredients are very basic, the setup is basic, the cleanup is, depending on how you do it, I guess, less than that of like oven or stove cooking. The skill required is basically not existent at all. It's do this, slap it in the microwave and see how it behaves. But what do you think of the donut approach? If you're still watching this, #donut, so that I know that you are still watching, but let me know. Do you think the donut approach would work? Or do you think there might be a better solution? Because if you have a better idea, I'd love to know. But cheese in the middle, forcing all the ingredients out to the edges, thereby cooking everything fast except for the cheese, which isn't that important. I feel like there's solid logic there. Also, I would probably recommend against adding seasoning other than salt prior to cooking. It's just not necessary. Salt can be added before if you want it to mix in with everything very evenly, but pepper and stuff like that, it doesn't dissolve into the mix as much, and you get an uneven spread. So that's another thing that I can fix for the next attempt. This is basically how I make all my meals, not in the microwave, but like this type of approach. I make something, and then I see how it turns out, and I'm like, okay, what are the issues? Not just in terms of taste, what would taste better, but like texture and consistency and how long it lasts, how healthy it is, and is it suitable for whatever purposes are you working out? Are you not? Is this enough protein? Is it not? How can you fit it in without going overboard on carbs or whatever? I feel like a child eating this. Because because I'm barely eating properly. It's really difficult to, like, my hands are like bent down. I think this is one of the longest eating videos in a while. Not without reason, it's cooking and eating. I have had a similar type of video before, but not quite like this. And I know that sentence is basically useless, it means nothing. Similar to this, but not quite like it. What does that even mean if you don't have further context? I feel like it's redundant. By saying it's similar, I'm not saying it's the same. I don't need to then reiterate that it's not quite like it, because that's already implied. And I respect your intelligence. I understand that you heard me speak and understand what I'm saying. I mean, I'm sure you don't need the clarification. There's a little bit of residue, but I don't consider that much of an issue personally. It's very easily washed off. And there's beeping cars in the background. This wasn't as long as I thought it was going to be, but hey, it was fun to make. So, let me know if you want more. Hashtag donut. Let me know what you think of the donut theory. By putting the cheese in the middle and making it push out all the ingredients to the edges, forming a donut. And I will see you in the next video, hopefully.